Okay, so good morning, almost noon again. Good morning and almost noon. So, um, so following my last video, I've got a lot of requests to elaborate. I mean, people say that it's not fair that that it's not like generous, certainly not generous, and some would say probably impolite to just throw clues into the air. And I admit that I don't like it, and it's not my way. And although my dear viewers and subscribers for a long time must admit that it's usually not my way. Like I try not to be cryptic. Like, of course, we deal with a very some of it are things that are deep in the shadows, but I try to be as clear as possible and to admit when I don't know something, and like if I just suspect. This is the same thing, same way that I speak like plainly about my science endeavor was also the way that I spoke about like many others like non-scientific issues. During the 3.5 years before I actually started the scientific project or projects. So yes, I shouldn't be cryptic, and I should, if I say something, I should, be as clear as possible. Of course, in the limits of my own knowledge. But before that, so I just let's speak about like art and merchandise options. So yeah, so we have these like 36. You see, it's starting to crack, which means that we need to quickly start, like maybe start like painting it and like applying another layer. The next layer will be layer of synthetic clays, several synthetic clays. But we need to decide regarding the medium, the layer that's in between. And between everything is like too dry. So I decided to use, first of all, I will use red acrylic of 2 times, deep 399, like deep Naftul red, if you know, it's a famous one. And also this is Rosso Primario magenta, which is kind of curious because primary red means that it should be like set, but actually I've seen many different colors that do not look the same, and they're all called primary red. So there is something suspicious about the coloring like standards of but what can you do? So I'll use this one with so first of all I said that color matters because for my experience not colors are the same for the creation of life forms and also big sculptures. This was actually documented a while ago. Anyway, red is a good one, black is also good, white is the worst, but red is a good one. And I will mix it with not much because it shouldn't most of the material should be the acrylic paint, but a tiny bit, like a spoonful of one from this container that you already know because it was one of the ones that you've seen under the microscope. And this one is probably known to my long-time subscriber. This is called the alien container. I spoke about it in the past. It's kind of it's a container. The contains many neurons and life form. I actually validated it now and under the microscope. I've also took samples from other containers, but I cannot elaborate, and I didn't have time. I need to hurry up. I didn't have time before it dries. So I didn't have the time to do videos, but it was interesting. Maybe some of you remember the container of that I called the catamaran, the special the catamaran with the 2 woods. So they actually, this one contained things that I haven't seen such. I've never seen such scary things. Maybe later you hear the Israelis, they are doing noises. I like the fact that they are creating noise in order to scare the robots, so we will not speak. But I don't really like it. So as usual, you know what? The punishment is around the world, and it's a severe one. I will not be shut up. I will not live in fear, and I will not live in noise. No. Torture of me is always from now. Not only from now, but certainly, in the future, starting now, will always be responded with retaliation, severe one around the world. You should put a leash on the crazy mad Israeli dog. You prefer not to do it. You prefer to move mouths and tongues. Punishment is around the planet. I will not live in fear from this mad dog that you created here. I will not live in fear. I will not be shut up. I will not be suffering from like around the clock like noise attacks and from various sources. No, I will have my quiet place. And no price is too high for that. I mean, with regards to humanity. Let's continue. So I had the catamaran that actually contained huge, tremendous, like big, like micro-shaped like life forms. That microscope probably is not in. I mean, you need maybe magnification, but you could actually see it with your own eyes. But maybe I'll inspect it later because it's incredibly interesting. In the catamaran, it's actually a very old container. I mean, so they had a lot of time to evolve. It's amazing what you can see there. And there is also, I took another one from the small red one that was like the form that was created like from the. If you remember that in the electrolysis, like one of the one big electrolysis experiment, so there was like precipitation like of fluids like when it was a hot week and with clear neros. I don't know if you remember anyway. It was also interesting to see what's going on over there, and there is interesting stuff over there. But we will take sample from this one. This is called the alien container. It contains remnants, of the original aquarium that is also the, original material of these ones and the other similar ones that we've expected. But this one is different because it contains very thick layer material. Very thick amount. Large amount and very thick oily material, like paraffin and canola oil, linseed oil, and beeswax, and in large quantities. And so it's very, very thick. So decided to use like a spoonful of this and that, and maybe I will also create a little bit of maybe some of the actually like the eggs will be covered with actually red oil, because I found that I have a small, like not much, but remnants of red paint or oil paint that is almost completely dry. So first of all, I decided to use the acrylic just for the reason that oil is very smelly, and if I do it in this room, the room will become very smelly and it will be difficult to breathe. As you know, I cannot open the window because as soon as I open it, the noise is unbearable. For like all the messages of the Shabak. So I must leave the and in this condition, it's best not to use oil. But there is a tiny bit here, and actually it seems that, and this one actually, I mix it with stuff from the aquarium, so it should contain many life forms in the oil, and actually you can actually see it like with the naked eye that there are all sort of like sculptures or not, I don't know, like living, I don't know. Maybe we should inspect it later. Under the microscope. This reminds me of a very important video that I've showed you in the past. That also, was based like on an experiment in red paint oil, which is very similar to this container actually. And we've seen amazing stuff there. If you remember, like the mega structures, and there's amazing things. So maybe we'll inspect it, and maybe we'll use it like as a cover, like for like a paint for the clay eggs. So very shortly, what I want to say about like these two gentlemen, Ronald Reagan and H.W. Yes, they were both not heterosexuals, and this is actually not a great discovery for anyone. Maybe for the general public it is, but certainly not for the people in the intelligence community of the United States and other places. It's not a big discovery, because for some reason, as I said many times, it's at some point in time, and I don't know exactly when. First of all, the intelligence services of the West, including Israel, especially Israel actually, but especially Israel, but the West in general, started to be very fond of recruiting of pedophile and homosexuals, and it happened quite a long ago. I assume that in the time of Churchill it was already established, so it's not a new issue. Like Winston Churchill, he lived for a long time. Towards the end of towards his second term, like as prime minister, it was already established in many places. But maybe even before that, I don't know. But this is not like a big. It's a big deal and it's a mistake. But it's not only, I mean, these things does not only, I mean, it's characteristics of the intelligence communities, but also of politics. And I don't know why, actually. Like, it's not it's not right. I never like discussed the issue of politics too much with this regards, but actually, even like Levi Strauss, which is like a political commentator, like, I mean, very important, like also writer and author, wrote about this stuff. But I mean, let's not get into it. I don't think that I ever discussed like the issue of politics in this regard, but its effects as well in politics. I mean, and I mean, perhaps this is a byproduct of like the intelligence services that are much stronger than, I mean, than people think, like in the West. Like, I mean, in the Eastern Bloc, it was known that the KGB is like, I mean, for a time, the head of the KGB, the famous Lavrenti Beria, I mean, was like number 2 in the Soviet Union and like a major like contender to actually replace Stalin. And I mean, until they like pretty much executed them like in the I mean the parliament. Like, I mean, something. I mean, it was pretty brutal, but. I mean, it's not a big secret that they are actually very strong in other places, certainly in the totalitarian countries like Israel, but also in the United States in other places. And maybe they just, I mean, take care of that. I mean, that they will, the successful politicians will be people like them. Maybe it's just like that. Anyway, I have never addressed this issue, and let's not get into it, but this is known by many people. It's not, I mean, nothing really new. The fact that they're Republicans doesn't mean anything. That those two specifically were Republicans means nothing. Just, I mean, to clarify, if anyone has any doubt. Now, like many people in the past, but also today, they found, like, I would say, companionship with a wife that is not Homo sapiens. This is also not new, and not a new issue at all. This probably came mostly from Israel, but maybe from other places as well, because Israel is, I mean, not all the gates in the earth are in Israel, and I've already spoken about it in the past. I don't want to repeat myself, but it could have been from other places as well, but probably from Israel, because Israel is, I mean, that's like, I mean, slave trade is like, I mean, their, you know, their hobby, and like, I mean, their, it's a strong tenet of their economy since, I mean, before this was actually an independent state, like from the time of Zionism, like, I mean, like early 20th century. Early 20th century. So, yeah, probably it's, I mean, they supply these, like, wives, and on surface level, these wives are, I mean, are super sweet, and like, I mean, even like, I mean, they like to portray themselves, like, I mean, even when they're part of the intelligence services, I mean, because at some point, I mean, these females sometimes they are actually part of the intelligence services, especially in Israel. Like all the ridiculous things, like all the absurd stuff. As I mean, it's in his most, like, I mean, it's like, I mean, it manifests itself in the highest level in Israel. I mean. And of course, it's, I mean, why it's ridiculous? Because, I mean, you take the people from another planet and you put it like in their side of intelligence services, and for certain they will become evil if they were not evil on the first place. And I mean, they will subjugate other people. I mean, and they will commit atrocities. And I mean, this is so cruel. And I mean, this alone is like, I mean, like an absolute, like, I mean, proof that humanity is like, I mean, barbarous and true. I mean, it's like a failed project. Humanity is a failed project. Anyway. They like to treat, like, to speak of themselves like a submissive, like, presumably that, I mean, like, I mean, that they are very submissive, like, and you know, but of course it's a lie, especially lie in Israel, because in Israel, I mean, it's just the opposite. They are like, I mean, they became, at some point they became the bosses because, all sorts of reasons, but mostly because, I mean, like, the quality level of the people of the Mossad and the Shabak were significantly deteriorated since the 50s and the 60s. Not that they were great there. I mean, then I many times I've said it. Like the men, like the Israeli men in the Mossad and Shabak during the 50s and the 60s were the cruelest of the cruelest, the worst of the worst, even like worse than anything that exists now. But from, like, I mean, intellectual, like, level and like education, they were an average much higher. Like right now, I mean, most of the people are just taxidermies. I mean, like the people that here, like they are not, I mean, they're barely humans. Like, I mean, like puppets. Just follow orders like in the chip, and like, I mean, sometimes they're uttered also for like nonsensical lines that, I mean, they don't even know what they mean, or when they tell them to fart, they fart. I mean, they're like fart pianos. I termed this coin, like, I mean, after, I mean, I lived in my mother's apartment since August when I ran out of money, and I had like more than ever like the opportunity to watch her husband, Shaul, which actually I know him for a long time. Like they're together. I mean, they're married or together and then married for like 20 something years. Like, so, yes, 20 years. I mean, yes, more than that actually, 22 or 3 years since they're together. So I've known them, but I mean, I had like the opportunity to actually, the very, I mean, problematic opportunity to actually live with him because I ran out of money, and then it was like also an house arrest. So I had the opportunity to watch him, and I came to the understanding that, I mean, the best way to, I mean, like to define this kind of, this person and also many others is fart piano. Fart piano. Like, I mean, it's like piano that, I mean, like someone is like pressing keyboard and he farts, like, I mean, accordingly. Like some kind of operator, I mean, sits wherever, and like I mean, playing the piano, and this man, like this 75 years old man, like farts, like whatever, I mean, according to the keyboard. So this definition is pretty, I mean, accurate for most of the people that I see around me. And this is generally, I mean, yeah, maybe you can find a professor of this or professor of that in the Shabak and the Mossad. Yeah, and actually I've met them. Yes, I've actually met these professors. But most of them are, I mean, the males are, I mean, they are fart pianos. Just, I mean, instruments to play farts like by a remote operator. That's what they are. So, I mean, probably because of that and maybe other reasons, that actually the females actually came to prominence in Israel. Not only that they are not submissive, they are actually very prominent inside the organization. If only because of the reason that the males are, I mean, barely human beings. Like, I mean, puppets. I mean, disgusting puppets. That's what you. I mean, that's what you. I mean, that's the way it is. That's the way it is, and it's true for older people and for younger people. I mean, that's the way it is. Anyway, the truth about these women, but the women like abroad, like presumably were, I mean, much more like, I mean, nicer than the Israelis, and probably they were. I mean, probably they were. I mean, to be honest, I mean, I find it difficult to believe that they weren't. Like, probably, yes, they were in average much nicer than the Israelis, and they were like a commodity that the Israeli trade. And this was insane for many reasons, and I don't understand why people like in the West actually, I mean, accepted it, because this is a curiosity, but it's not a new curiosity. This was already a curiosity during like the previous episode, like during the 80s, like the previous, as I said, the episode that, I mean, where, I mean, I had like a predecessor like in Israel that was also tortured, and it was like his life was in some way like comparable to mine, because he was like a man of constant sorrow, and I mean, and like his mission was like a man, like, I mean, to expose the truth to the superpowers. So, like, I mean, he had a lot of issues with the KGB, and like, I mean, the American administrations, and part of my journey was to understand in both terms what happened during the time. Even though I live in completely different time, I mean, you don't need to be aware of anything. You already know everything. Right now, it's only a question of like, I mean, what nations will actually move arms and legs, and what nation will continue to move mouths and tongues. As I said, this is Judgment Day, and as I said many times, when I was born in 1984, the Israelis were already condemned to destruction because they were beyond salvation back in the day. They were deep in the pocket of Satan back in the day. That's reality. But the question is, I mean, what the other nations will actually do, as I said many times. And in order to understand it, I had to be born in Israel, because I mean, even in Israel, it's extremely difficult to understand the thing that that I understood without like being part of the intelligence community. I mean, it would have been probably impossible in any other place. So this was not a new issue, and actually, even like in the 90s, I mean, it was already like a conundrum. How actually the West accepted these females? Like, I mean, how? I mean, there are things I don't understand. Probably, I mean, I guess that they were extremely like coveted commodity, because, I mean, the West, with disregard to Israel, the West, I mean, developed like huge intelligence services that are, I mean, so many of them are like pedophiles and homosexuals, and this, I mean, and as I said, I mean, this greatly influenced politics, and like the politicians and also people like in the intelligence services itself, like I mean, certainly higher ups that have like layer of visibility and cannot like be found like I mean cruising like in Central Park or whatever. Even if in that day of age, certainly during the 80s, but even today. So these people, I mean, they really wanted like a wife because it was extremely like, I mean, beneficial for a career in politics and also career in like as higher up in the intelligence services, which also, I mean, is, by the way, sometimes it also leads to politics. For example, HW, which was the head of the CIA. But others, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, it's not only in Israel that, I mean, people like from the like different security system, I mean, but it should be said that he was a politician before. It's not really, I mean, it's not comparable to the Israeli case. But in any case, yes, these people actually needed like this sort of arrangement, and they, I mean, so these females were a very like an important commodity. So, I mean, probably, I mean, for some stupid reason, they closed their eyes to the, I mean, evident and immediate security threat, because these women, I mean, well, maybe they were nice. I guess so. Maybe they're still nice. Maybe, I mean, some of them are still alive, and I assume that they are nice. But, I mean, it's, I don't understand. I mean, it's like, I mean, they are slaves that were brought from Israel. I mean, is it like, I mean, that, I mean, do you need to be like a genius, like a mastermind of intelligence to understand that this is a security risk? I mean, the Israelis, I mean, have no limits. Of course they will, I mean, try to use this female like for whatever. They don't care about nothing. I don't have an answer for that, actually. Besides that, I mean, this arrangement was very, I mean, as I said, like, I mean, it was like a magic arrangement for many people, and maybe the FBI, so that, I mean, they can like and the Secret Service like they can control the situation. Like, I mean, that, that they can follow these like females, and like, I mean, if they see that, I mean, they stop like doing like, I mean, cooking lessons for children, or stop like doing like, I mean, guest performance in Sesame Street, or other things that, I mean, the First Lady is doing, and like suddenly meeting with, I don't know, Israeli officials. So they saw that, I mean, in that case, probably they would have known that something fishy is going on, and they could stop it. Maybe. But this was already common and ridiculously dangerous during the 80s. Not a new issue. And it's still like that. Like, it's still like that. Even though, for a time, the Israelis had no gate, but, as you know, they always find a way to, I mean, to return to their old sins. And also, they have the project of, like, creating next generation slaves in Israel, but I've spoken about it in the past, but let's not get into it. Now, what's the, like, so I mean, all of this was already known in the 80s, during the 80s. It was not an issue, I mean, a new like thing back in the 80s. But there were several things that were not known. First of all this issue with the Nero, like the nanobots, nothing was that was known during the 80s, and to my huge surprise, even today, like, I mean, almost like, I mean, it's amazing that people, I mean, seems to just, I mean, know very little about it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I am the one that knows about it, like, by far, like, the most. Like, even though I have no scientific background, and I'm like, I'm doing all the research, like, I mean, like a house arrest, I mean, without money, with zero money, I mean, and you are like, I mean, you are superpowers, but this also, I mean, I don't understand that. This it's also like something that I don't understand. I mean, but because, I mean, initially I saw that, I mean, for certain, like, I mean, that, like, the Israelis and the Russians and the Americans, like, I mean, they already conducted huge scientific, like, researches on these materials, like, I mean, long ago, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe it is, and I missed something, but it really doesn't seem to be the case. Like, and this is also supported by more evidence that I will speak about in a while. Like, I mean, in evidence from, like, other directions, not only my own experiences. But yes, I mean, for some queer reason, I mean, they did not, probably they almost, I mean, they conducted very limited, if it all research, like, on the material, I mean, that I call, like, the nanobots. I don't know why. I really don't know. Several aspects of this, like, history, I mean, are like, mystery to me. This is one of it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is, like, and maybe, like, there is another actor. Maybe the British, like, I mean, they had, like, I mean, amazing research on the matter, and, I mean, like, I mean, they keep it to themselves. I don't know. Or maybe some kind of, like, another, maybe smaller name, maybe Iran, I don't know. But I mean, it seems that I mean, the knowledge is not common within the intelligence communities, including I mean among the Titans and including the Homo sapienses that are consuming this material. Like they consume stuff that they don't. I mean, they didn't like bother to. I mean, we live this in kind of day and age that I mean everyone is like I mean. I mean, especially like I mean, younger people, like I mean, not very young. I mean, less than 45. I mean, many times you see, I mean, like they count like every carbohydrate that they put in their mouths. Like I mean, and they always like carry like electrolytic whatever like water bottles, and they once in like half a year they do like I mean juice diet to cleanse or something like that. There's I mean, and like sport is so important, and I mean awareness and like I mean. And at the same time, they fucking eat like robots that were taken out of the dead body of an alien. Peculiar, yes, but this is reality. I admit I don't understand it. It seems that I know the most like in Earth, like regarding these nanobots, and this is extremely peculiar. Like I mean, I don't have any explanation for this. Like I mean, I just don't know. Anyway. Knowledge during the 80s surrounding like the biology and the material of these titans were extremely limited and was I mean like it was mostly like I mean hearsay or like I mean people just I mean it was like drug. I mean it was a drug. I mean it was a drug. Like the tea was a drug. But it should be said that the tea that we speak about today is not the same tea as then. It's not exactly the same thing because there is the tea that the female produces, which is the thing that is common today. In Israel, it's like a very common, it was common, but now they can't produce it because they need my material in order to produce it, or male titans that, I mean, just to say, like the great white buffalo, I mean, nowhere to be found, like, I mean, because they were all slaughtered, just like that. So, that's mostly this comes from me, and I fight this like for two years now, as you know. This is part of the fight. So I mean, this tea, like I mean, is in short. Like I mean, there is a shortage of this tea. But I mean, this tea is. I mean, I never tasted it in my life. I never seen it under the microscope for certain. I assume that it is also a nanobot that probably are. I mean, in some way similar to mine. I call these theoretical entities that I've never seen, and I have no direct information about it, that I call them the red neurons, as opposed to the yellow neurons. Just a color code that are my own. But this is very hypothetical. Extremely hypothetical. I mean, it's not like I didn't I didn't like pull it out of like my sleeve, or someone say out of my ass. No, I mean, I have some reason to believe. I mean, this was. I mean, I came to this conclusion after all sorts of like arguments, but it's not time to get into it. That this is actually the case. So there is the tea of the females, but there is that. I mean, this is what I mean. The males in Israel and also abroad like to eat, and this is a major like I mean the drug dealing like venture of the Israelis since long ago, and still. But I mean, as I said, now there is like a universal shortage. But there is the other like tea, which is the things that females consume. Females should not consume like the tea of the females. I don't know what happens to them if they do. Probably not good things. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not like maybe they do it. I don't think that they do it. I think that mostly, I mean, they produce it. I mean, in Earth, it is completely like divine. I mean, of course, that I mean, reality is very. I mean, according to nature, it was very simple. It's part. These like materials are part of the reproduction and sexual system of the Titans in Venus. I mean, it's something that I mean, it's part of like reproduction between males and females. It's not very, I mean, complicated to understand it. But in the Earth, I mean, they took it like, I mean, they completely like subverted it and like they created something like, I mean, monstrous and extremely abusive. And like now, the Homo sapiens is like also males, but also females actually. Homo sapiens females also like to eat these things, like the female tea. But the females, in order to actually create it, they need the male T. But the male T, now the male T is comparable in a way to my Neros, but there is another complication here because it's not the same, because I am not a Titan. I am a different creature, and this was demonstrated in many experiments. This is positively proven to you. I am not a Venusian, and there are so many like proofs for that. But people still don't want to like, I mean, if you want to stick to your idiocy, I mean, I have nothing to say to you. Besides that, it doesn't really matter all that much, because prophet can be like Venusian or Terran, or I mean a cherub, or a robot like a 3PU or R2D2. It doesn't matter. Like, God can send the messages in whatever vehicle that He chooses. God doesn't need like your approval, like a justification stamp, like on how he chooses to send messages. So it doesn't matter if I would like being in that regard Homo sapiens or whatever. Anyway, the Titan males also have some kind of like material that exists in their body, and this is like most probably another kind of like Neros. Maybe, I don't know. I never like thought about it too much. Like, I actually never gave it a name, because they are nowhere to be found. Like, the Israelis just murder all of them. Like, so I don't know. We should call it like the brown Nero. Okay. Yellow Neros were not to be found, during the time, because there were no cherubs. Even though cherubs certainly lived in Earth in the past. Certainly, I'm not the first. At all. It's not a new. Like, we are not new to planet Earth at all. Since like ancient times. Sometimes like in singles, like single person, and sometimes actually in groups even. Not very large one. Not like they could like create like a kingdom, or like any kind of political entity. But more than one, like in a group. There were also like times there were more than one in a group. So it's not a new issue, but nothing of that was even remotely understood by the people in the 70s and the 80s. Mostly the females took the T from the males, but they didn't do it like as nature intended, because males during the up until the 70s were just like subhumans in Israel. Now they are just modern, but then they were like subhumans. I don't know which is preferable. It's kind of like a very cynical question. It's preferable that the state of Israel would not exist. Anyway, the most favorable way for Israelis since long ago, and including up to the 80s, to actually extract the material from the males, because they didn't like the fact that the males and the females would actually meet each other, and like have sex. Actually, during our times, it's like in a very pervert way, like more acceptable, but they are died. They are usually murdered. They are, when they come to Israel, they don't do it because they do not exist. But they arrive in Israel, and they are then allured by the female for sex, because that's what the female wants, and that's why they are allowed to come here in the first place. Israel controls the gates from the two sides. It's not that they can invade, and they are on Paleolithic. They can do anything. What can they do? Of course, the Israelis are. They are the ones. That they set all all the rules. So they usually come here. They have sex with the females, and then they are murdered or mutilated in very gruesome way. This is the standard in Israel to these days. This is not historical. This is true today. But back in the day, this wasn't actually common. The common method during those decades to actually extract the material from the males and to actually supply it to the females is by cooking the males. Yes, just like that, including babies. They also cooked babies. They didn't care at all. These are facts. They just cooked them. They just cooked them. This is not a metaphor. They just cooked them and ate. Like, part of it was eaten by people in Israel, and part of it was sent abroad to the female Titans that were presumably like now under like the aegis of the local like intelligence services, presumably. Now, sending this material from Israel to other places, certainly to the United States, was a very risky and incredibly, I would say like dark occupation. It was handled by the Mossad. My mother actually did it during the 70s for a time. This was a tremendous sin, for many reasons. Anyway, they bought them the material. And when they consumed it, it affected their body in all sorts of ways. Not only by the creation of the cycles. Like, I'm not sure at all that, actually, like, back then, it was actually common by, like, the Homo sapienses in the United States and other places to actually eat the tea. Today it is actually common, but I'm not sure that it was actually back in the day that common. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I suspect that it wasn't actually. And actually, to this day, I don't really understand. What's like the big deal of this drug? Like, it's kind of like, it's kind of like a drug to Homo sapienses, but I don't understand about what they feel like, the males and females. It affects their body in some way, probably something sexual, but at the same time, it doesn't contribute to their like intelligence or their like athletic abilities, because you see that in Israel, everybody's on average much more stupid than their Jewish ancestors, and their athletic ability is, as it was always, like like in the like rock bottom, like compared to other like everyone. So probably something sexual. I don't understand what they gain from it, and of course it's a great sin because it relies on extremely abusive like system. But for the females, I do understand what they actually get from it. First, it allows their cycle of creation the tea that as I said, I'm not sure that it was actually common to actually eat it like in the 80s, like in the United States. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But it also contributed in other aspects to the to their physical and mental like capacity. And they were hooked, and when they took it in two great quantities, and the Israelis had it like in great quantities because they literally slaughtered the males and cooked them, so they took it from their body. You can only imagine how many like neurons you can see like in any kind of like sample of my pee or spit or like blood. So probably there are like billions on billions or trillions like in my own body. Probably if you could cook me, the whole country could have like and Israel could have engorged in this feast of like drug for maybe like a whole year or so. But maybe it's probably it's most probably the dream of more than one person in Israel right now, that such a thing will happen, that I will commit suicide or die in kind of like an accident and they will cook me. Literally so. So, you can just imagine, like from the microscopic sample, how many of these exist in the Titan male, even though it's not the same, but it's comparable. It's not the same, like I'm not the same creature, but you can, so they had it in great quantities. And back in the day, there was still buffalo to be found. Like, it wasn't like that they were almost extinct. So these, so many times the females actually, ate far too much of it and become hooked on it. And again, I'm not certain at all that, part of the issue was like, the creation of the tea and like supplying the tea to the Homo sapiens males and also females, like it is today. Because today it is integral part of the issue. But I'm not sure that, it was like that during the 80s or the 70s. But it was essential part to hook those like female titans on the stuff. Because of two reasons. First, hooking, the fact that they become addicted to something is, a vulnerable, like, in itself is a security vulnerability that the Israelis can use. Or at least like have like the card against like these people, like they have like a card. The suppliers have this card against like the addict, and if the addict is the first lady, it's quite a card. But it's actually more severe than that because this kind of like addiction, as many other addictions, it many times it contributed to all sorts of like behaviors that were not that were, I mean, a strong deviation, I would say, from the ideal view of like the submissive, like, I mean, robot that, I mean, these females, like, I mean, carefully, I mean, created for themselves back in the day and also to today. I mean, so, I mean, it actually was never true, but I mean, this addiction, I mean, caused like the behaviors, like these behaviors that, I mean, strongly deviate from this image to surface. As many other addictions, it shouldn't be like a great surprise. And the details are not extremely important, but yes, I mean, most certainly, I mean, and many times it involves sexual behaviors that were not expected and not, I mean, not something that, I mean, as many other drugs. It's actually, you know what, it's not that peculiar when I think about it. Yes, many other drugs, I mean, they do it as well to humans. Like, I mean, so yes, it manifested many times in like sexual behavior that, I mean, was not what you expected, like from a person that presumably should not have any sex at all because she's married to a pedophile or homosexual that, I mean, that doesn't touch her. But of course, these kind of behaviors, when they are documented or recorded, there are more, I mean, additional cards like in the hands of the supplier. Because now it's not only the addiction, but it's also, I mean, the scandal that, I mean, and you know very well that intelligence services always dealt with scandals. Like, I mean, at least like the disgusting ones, and most of them are disgusting, and of course the most disgusting is the Israeli ones, as always. I mean, creating scandals or threatening with scandals is a major part of what they always did. This kind of like sick theater, I mean, that's what they do. So, I mean, none of it should actually be a surprise to you. That's why, I mean, I still don't understand like how from the first place, like, I mean, this arrangement like came to be, as I said like earlier in this video. Anyway, it's quite a long video, so let's do the TLDR. If you will open the grave of HW and Reagan, probably, as I said, you are going to be surprised, but probably not because of what you will actually see when you inspect the bodies of HW and Reagan, but maybe also. As I said, I don't know if it was common in the day to actually eat the tea, like the female tea, and today it is, but I'm not sure at all. Maybe they didn't even ever ate it like in their own life. I don't want to say something that I'm not sure at all that they actually ever did it. So this will not be the surprise, but the surprise will be Nancy. This will be the surprise. Their body will be full of the nanobots that you can see in these videos. But not only nanobots. There will not be nanobots, and there will probably not be microbots. At that time, there will be probably robots. Like, we'll probably be able to see it in your own eyes. And if you can, I will gladly, I mean, like, receive a photograph, because it's actually something that I work on like a lot, like during the last 2 or 3 months, like to create a Neo that is visible in the naked eye. I still haven't done it, but I think I'm close to do it. But I assume that, I mean, the Nancy corpse, I mean, contains such things. So, but not only this, but I mean, there is like a very high probability that, I mean, you're going to see like life forms, I mean, that in some way are, I mean, similar to the ones that I've shown you under the microscope, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're like 1,000 or 1,000,000 times bigger. And this is also quite interesting. So if you have like photograph, I mean, peak or it didn't happen, as they say. Peak or it didn't happen. Now, it is not only a funny issue, but it's also, I mean, of course, it's like it's funny, and it's also not funny because, I mean, it's another way that the Israelis, abuse the world. I mean, but in that case, I should say, I mean, the world is so stupid that, I mean, I like, the whole thing, I mean, my like conclusion is that, I mean, humanity is just a failed project, like all of them. But also, this actually affects radiation, because as I've said many times, you are bombarded with radiation from the starships, and the ones that feel it the most are those that have the neurons in their body. This is also true for dead bodies, not only for living bodies. this actually have a physical explanation that I was starting to actually formulate. I mean, but really, I mean, it's not that important, and I mean, but it's nice. I mean, I think that, I mean, discussing the physical issue here is, I mean, it's like, I mean, you know, escaping like to I mean, to like escapism, like, I mean, escapism, like, I mean, deal with like all sorts of like theoretical issues that, I mean, when the only question that should be asked now is, why are you not running? You should be running to Israel to rescue me and my daughters from the Nazi prison. Running, not moving mouses and tongues. Running. And why do you not do it? Not only the Americans, everybody. You should have been running to Israel long ago, 20 years ago, but certainly now. Running to Israel to rescue us from this Nazi hell.